Hey, what's up? My name is PJ, and you are listening to the Music Photo Podcast, session number 15. Hello, all my music photography friends, and welcome to session number 15 of the Music Photo Podcast. I'll be your host for today, and my name is PJ Pantelis. You can find me on Twitter at PJPantelis. It's been so long since I posted anything on here, and to be honest, I lost the motivation for a while, but I've had a couple of very kind people tweet me, and I did a tour recently with Storm the Sky, the short stack tour, and there were kids in Brisbane and Sydney telling me how much they love the podcast. So it's really giving me the fire to keep this thing going. Today on the show, we are very lucky to be joined by our first international guest, Bryce Hall. Bryce, or sometimes known as Where's Bryce online, is a very talented young music photographer from the US. Most notably, he was the tour photographer for Blood on the Dance Floor for a couple of years, and since then, if you go to his website, Where's Bryce Photography, you can check out his client list, and it's very, very impressive. You're going to want to stick around until the very end for this one, as we discuss things such as going from 0 to 100 and landing a bus tour as your first real gig, learning tolerance on the road and getting along with and living with 5 people that you normally wouldn't, extending your network and staying busy with new clients, and also just your daily commitments and routine as a full-time touring music photographer. As always, the show notes can be found at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. But for now, enjoy my conversation with Bryce Hall. Bryce, thank you so much for joining me this morning or this evening from where you are. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
What have you guys been up to? I know you're taking a little intermission. You're on a little break from your tour.
Yeah. We were just on a tour called the Fresh Faces Tour. It was with Ice Nine Kills, Wage War, The White Noise, and My Enemies and I. And I was doing all the media on that tour for all 4 of the bands. So it was a pretty busy month to say the least. But now we got a few days off. Well, this is our last day off. Tomorrow we have to be in Philadelphia to start tour with August Burns Red. So had 2 days to kind of unwind and relax. And yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're traveling with Wage War, is that right?
Yes, as of right now, yeah. I was traveling with, well, like I said, I was with the whole tour package, and I was riding with the band called My Enemies and I, but I just switched over vans and switched over all my gear, and yeah, now I'm riding with the Wage War dudes.
Okay, cool. But you're covering the whole tour, 4 bands every night.
Yeah, yes, I was doing that, yeah.
That's that's something that I've tried to improve on. I've just been in the US for a couple of months. I've been home for a couple of weeks now, but there was like 5 or 6 bands, I think 5 on this tour package. And the first few nights, I was trying to shoot all of them and trying to deliver all of them. And then honestly, after the first few days, I was just like feeling very sad and sorry for myself. I was feeling very burnt out. So I don't know how you can do 4 bands every night.
It was pretty crazy. This is the first time that I've actually been contacted to do something like that. You know, usually when I'm on a tour with one band, I'll try to do the other bands, but it was definitely a challenge, especially since my requirements for this tour was every band was very different in their persona and stage presence and their music. So I had to incorporate that in the videos and photos that I did. So that was it was pretty difficult, but it turned out really, really well. Everyone was pretty happy with the works, and I was really happy with the work, and it was cool. I like going on tour with one band. It gives me a lot of free time, but the fact that I was able to work with 4 different bands and stay busy, like literally right when the show started until everyone's loaded up, it was cool. I was never bored. The work was kind of in the van at night at 2 a.m. working on everything, but it was good. I mean, I was really stoked to be able to work with, stay busy the whole entire time.
Yeah, busy being the key word there. What do you have to deliver? So you're doing photos and videos. Is that for all the
Yes,
bands? Videos as
yes,
well?
for all the bands.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what do you have to deliver at the end of each night?
Well, the end of each night, what I try to deliver is just at a bare minimum all the photos. My requirements this tour were to do, some Instagram videos for every band, and a lot of the drives were done, especially with the band I was riding with. A lot of the drives were done in the morning, so
hmm
I was able to work until about 3 or 4 a.m. and then go to sleep for a couple hours and then wake up and as we're driving do some Instagram videos. But at least by the end of the night I got everyone their photos for the night so they could post them on their social medias and the label could look at them and post them and say, here's a gallery from Seattle, or something like that. But yeah, for delivering each day, I tried to get everyone an Instagram, a 15-second Instagram video, and then at a bare minimum, at least all the photos from the previous night.
Hmm. And so delivering all the photos to each band, how many pictures a night would you give to a band? How many final edited images would you give to each band?
I actually shoot quite a bit, and I mean, every night was at least 1,000 photos, so it was pretty bad. But what I delivered to them was some nights I would deliver, 20 to 30 to each band. Some nights I would have more, like 50 or 60 to each band. But I edit a ton and give them a ton to work with because they're not going to like every single shot.
Hmm.
So I just give them as much as I possibly can. Because there's certain photos that I won't like and bands will rave over. And then there's certain photos that, I'll really like and bands are, that was okay, so I just try to give them as much as I can so they have, more, just more options to pick from.
Yeah, yeah. Because do you know Jonathan Kemp?
I have heard we have mutual friends, but I don't think we've ever met before.
Okay, yeah. Because I was learning a bit from him on my first US excursion, and basically the first few nights I was sort of delivering, I don't know, 60 to 80 photos to the band that I was writing with, Belhaven. And on my old MacBook, that takes a long time to sort through a night's worth of photos, let alone start editing them. So I was just sort of like getting discouraged because it was taking so long to deliver and like let alone upload. Like half the venues, most of the venues didn't have Wi-Fi. So trying to upload all that really hurts as well. And then like
Oh
trying to
yeah.
do other bands on top of that, I was really struggling. But I was watching Johnny and what he was doing, and he was sort of doing, I'm going to say 20-ish per band, and he was shooting every band every night. And before we'd even left the venue, he'd smashed them out and uploaded them all. So I certainly know that I'll be better for next time. If you can smash out 50 plus per band every single night, I am so impressed because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, what was actually really bad was right before this tour started, I was in LA for a few days in between tours, and I was riding with the White Noise from LA to New York to start the tour, and we got about halfway into our drive, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna, edit some stuff from the last tour I haven't done yet, and I opened my computer and it was completely dead, would not turn on, would not do anything, and I was like, you gotta be kidding. I mean, the MacBook was pretty old. It was from 2009, and I knew it was going to go sooner or later, but it went at the completely wrong time. And so right when I got to New York, I had to run straight to the Apple store, pick up a brand new computer. Like it was such a hassle, and so it was so stressful. But yeah, luckily I just have a brand new MacBook, so before doing all the photos that I would do, it would take such a long time to edit every one, and now it's like even doing videos and doing photos is it's a lot quicker, but it's still really time strenuous, if that's the right word. But what I would have to do is, since I would be in the van when I would do most of my editing and everything, I'd actually have to put all the photos on my phone, and I have a Dropbox app on my phone, and I would have to upload each individual photo onto Dropbox um, in the van. And like sometimes it'd be great because I would have full great service and it would be super quick, and then sometimes it would take hours to upload. So it
Right.
was and like a lot of the venues, I was lucky because a lot of the venues on this run had Wi-Fi. Not a lot of it was great Wi-Fi, but it was a lot of the venues had Wi-Fi to work with. So at least I was never. There were a few days I got behind on a few, just uploading a few photos, but for the most part, it actually went over pretty smooth, surprisingly enough.
Yeah. And the other thing that I found about the venue Wi-Fi is if you can get in there to the venue first and start doing your uploads and whatever, it works great. But as soon as the rest of the band start loading in and everyone starts jumping on, then that's when you really lose that speed.
Oh man, because everyone's trying to download their movies and like just do all that. And
Update all the apps and stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty
so
rough.
yeah, so it was definitely a challenge, but luckily I was pretty much the first one to get in every day, so I did hit that advantage. But once everyone started downloading their TV shows, there was nothing. I couldn't download anything.
Right. And do you shoot video on the same setup that you shoot your photographs with?
I do, yeah, I do.
What's that setup currently?
I have a 6D,
Mhm.
a Canon 6D, and yeah, I shoot all the video on that. And on this run, I only brought two lenses with me. I brought a 17 to 40 with an f-stop of 4, and then I brought my 50 1.4 with me, and
Mhm.
those are just my two go-to lenses. Some nights where it was great enough lighting to shoot with my 17 to 40, but most of the time I just use my 17 to 40 to shoot a bunch behind the scenes, during the day, and then I shoot a majority of my stuff with my 50 just because I can open it up so wide that it can get all the light that's not there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm running a fairly similar setup. I've got a 17 to 40 as well, but I've got that Sigma 35 1.4. I also have, yeah. To be honest, I could have done this whole tour with just the 35 millimeter. I didn't even use. I also had a 24-70, but I didn't even use it. Once you get comfortable with that low or high aperture, whatever it is, it's just so hard to go back to anything less.
oh, totally, totally.
Yeah.
I feel that.
So you've been doing this for a while now. How did you get into touring with bands? What's your touring history like? When did that start?
Uh, oh geez, here we go. Okay, so it's pretty funny. There was a local band from, well, I mean, if you want to start from where I picked up photography,
Hmm.
I was about 14 or 15, and my parents bought me a camera. I wasn't really into anything else, but I had shot some good photos, and they were like, "We'll buy you a camera for Christmas," and they bought me a camera, and it literally sat on my shelf and collected dust for like 8 months, and then finally, I went to a Envy on the Coast and Anne Berlin show, and I met one of my best friends currently there, and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to Warp Tour. Have you ever been?" And I said, "No, I've never been to Warp Tour." She goes, "Well, why don't you come?" And brought my camera along and shot a few bands, and I got picked up by this old news publication I don't even think's around anymore called BuzzNet, and they basically were like, "Hey, we can't pay you for photos, but we can get you like photo passes." And at the time, I was like, "Sure, okay, I'm down." So I started doing that, and I just did that all through high school. And I lived pretty far away from cities, so every weekend I would, drive hour and a half to whatever show was happening and shoot and do all that. And fast forward to my senior year of high school, I had gotten in with a local band from the Tampa area called We Are Defiance, and they were like, "Hey man, like you should come on tour with us over the summer." I was like, "Great, I'll do it." And literally 3 days before we were supposed to leave, they called and said, "Hey, we had to drop off the tour." So I was like, "Oh, great, that's great."
Yeah.
I already quit my job. I had already done all this, and I was like, "Dang, what?" So I looked on Warp Tour's site, and I saw that a band called Blood on the Dance Floor had gotten added last minute to the band list. I was like, "All right, what the hell? I'll email them." Emailed their management, and I was like, "Hey, I'd love to work with you guys in Tampa." He was like, "Sure." So I went out to the St. Petersburg date of Warp Tour and shot them for a whole day, and the management got back to me afterwards and was like, "Yo, your stuff's really, really good. I'm going to stick you on their tour for the fall." And I was like, "Great, that's awesome. Like, oh my gosh." And it was a bus tour and everything like that. So I was like jumping for joy. So Blood on Dance Floor really got me my start. They took me out, and I went with them for about 2.5 years, did a couple US tours, shot them two documentaries, went to Europe with them. That was really cool. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got my start. And after I had stopped working with them, that didn't really leave anywhere for me to go because they didn't really have as many connections as some bands have now because they're kind of their own thing. And to be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
they're not really super appreciated in the music scene. So not a lot of people were like, "Oh, you work for Blood on the Dance Floor, come with us." Not a lot of
Okay.
people were like that.
Interesting.
So yeah, so I would just email bands, and I got with a band called Famous Last Words. Started touring with them for a few years, and everything's just kind of snowballed up until now, and it's been really good. Yeah, and that's basically kind of how I got my start with everything.
That's pretty wild, man. So your first tour was a bus tour.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Yeah, my first ever tour, my first like three tours were bus tours.
Wow,
So
you
I
you skipped a few steps there. I feel like you leveled up pretty quickly.
well, I skipped a few steps and then I went straight back down after that. And right after that, I was touring in a broken down RV that literally like funny story. My first tour ever with Famous Last Words, I met up with them in Tampa, and they were like, they had broken down and missed the show. So I had met up with them because they were only like an hour from my house. Met up with them, met all the dudes, and we were like, hey, the RV's fixed. We're good. It's like, great. We went to sleep. I woke up the next morning to everyone yelling, saying, get out of the van, get out of the RV, hurry up, hurry up. We got broken down in a toll booth. Like, we stopped to pay the toll and we broke down. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we pushed the RV half a mile off the toll booth to some deserted road in Orlando. We sat there and the dudes looked at me and they were like, dude, if you want to go home, you can go home. And I was like, I'm going to rough it out. And I roughed it out and
Stick with it.
stuck with it. And that eventually led me. That's actually how I met TJ from Ongoing Concept. Like a few
Okay.
years down the road after that, we toured together on the Hawthorne Heights tour,
Hmm.
so, with Famous Last Words. So,
Was that with Red
yeah,
Jumpsuit as well?
yeah, it was Red Jumpsuit, Hawthorne Heights, Ongoing Concept, Famous Last Words, and then another band called Cynic and Everybody Run. And yeah, that's how I met all them. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how like everything came to be, but it's just been, like knowing someone and getting a connection here and there. And you know, it's funny because I never used to believe that. Everyone in the scene was like, oh, it's all who you know. Like when I
Yeah.
was trying to get somewhere, I was like, who do I contact? Who do I go to? Like what? They're like, it's all who you know. And I was like, okay, that's just someone's cop out for not wanting to give me their contact information. But it really is who you know, and it's pretty funny like how that happens. It's just knowing one person and them knowing someone else and getting gigs through that. So it's really weird, but it's really cool.
That's really cool. So it's like it's been quite an organic thing for you. It's just been sort of like because you can hang and because you can bro down a little bit, it's just grown naturally from tour to tour.
Yeah, definitely. It's just having a good personality and being, able to be around other people and not being annoying. It's
Yeah.
even if you don't like somebody, still knowing how to put up with someone or even put up with an entire band. That's happened to me. I've been with bands that I can't stand, but I will never let that be known. I'll always, you know, be a good person to be around, and that's obviously shown. So it's yeah, it's just you gotta be a good person.
It's a
Pretty
pretty
much.
unnatural environment as well on the road, like being with so many people in a confined space for such a long amount of time. Obviously, any little cracks or anything, any issues that are below the surface are going to come out because in real life, in the real world, let's call it, you would never be in that situation where you're living with six strangers or six acquaintances. Obviously, you become friends with them along the way, but any sort of little niggles that you have with someone, any issues, any annoying things, that's going to come to the surface pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, I know that all too well. I've seen all the band drama unfold in front of me, and I can't go anyway. It's been like on drives, and most of the time now, if something happens, I'm to the point now where I just get up and leave the van and let them do what they have to do. But I've definitely seen some shit unfold in front of me. But yeah, it definitely gets to the point, especially when you're doing tours with bands that are a month, 2 months long. You get to that point where someone could breathe wrong and there's going to be someone snapping at them for it. So, but yeah, you just have to learn to adapt. Honestly, you have to learn to, be able to surround yourself with different people, whether they be, annoying or not. And it's pretty awesome too because I've been open. Like I grew up in a really small conservative town in Florida, so like my first tour, I was surrounded by people who I've never been around before, never been around those type of people, and it's actually really, really cool. It's opened my mind a whole lot more, and it's just made me, be able to be around certain types of people and, appreciate that. And it's I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but yeah, it's cool being around different types of people and different, being with people that grew up, not like you did, or grew up in different environments and things like that. It's pretty eye opening, but it's also really cool, and it's cool now because I can appreciate a lot more from it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Whereabouts are you from in Florida?
I'm from a town called Crystal River, Florida, which I guess the closest town to me would be Ocala, Florida, which is actually where the Wage War guys are from. But like closest major cities to me would be like Tampa, Florida, or Orlando, Florida.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm just in the boonies, man. Like, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, did it cut
Okay,
out?
cool. It it glitched for a second, so I didn't know, um but yeah, I grew up in like the boonies in Florida, so it's crazy for all my friends too that like I grew up with because they're like, "Oh, you're doing that. That's so weird." Because all my friends are either back at home selling drugs or in college.
Right. Okay, yeah. We started the tour in Florida and man, it was so hot and sweaty all the time. We uh we were having a rough time because we were seriously jet lagged and we had to keep the generator running in the RV all the time. So if you're used to that and you've grown up in those sort of conditions, I would think that the rest of the tour would be a piece of cake for you.
Yeah, there's only been one other day, and that was on Warp Tour this past summer. We hit St. Louis, Missouri, and I guess I'd never been in St. Louis in the middle of summer, but it was so bad. It's so hot. It like if you're cooking in the oven and you open up the oven while it's like hot and you feel that hot air on you and you're like, ooh, when you close the door. That's how it was the entire day from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to sleep. Like it was like an oven. Usually you can escape it by going in the shade. No, it was worse than it was terrible. I almost passed out that day, and I never pass out from heat. I mean, because I used to play football in Florida, so I mean,
Yeah,
I'm used to the
you're
summers, the
conditioned.
summer camps. Yeah, exactly. And St. Louis just kicked my ass, and it was awful. And then, of course, to end that day, great. It was. Hold on. Yeah, hey, I'm doing an interview right now. Okay, man, just making sure, checking on you. Yeah, dude. Um. Well, oh yeah, and to end that day perfectly, it was. It rained as I was loading out all the merch. It was raining. It poured. So that was just St. Louis was great to me on
That
Warped
sounds
Tour. Let's
sticky.
just
It
say
sounds
that.
sweaty.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I've heard that Warp Tour is just like nothing else. I mean, apart from the fact that it's just so long in terms of, not just time but distance as well. I've just heard that middle of summer, most of those dates are just absolutely stinking hot. Well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was. I thought because I was so confident going into Warped Tour. I was like, I'm from Florida. I was like, this is piece of cake. I was like, there's nowhere hotter than Florida. I'm good. And then we hit St. Louis, and we had a few more dates that were pretty bad, but it was definitely. I did it in a van too, and so that was probably the roughest part of it all. Warped Tour is tough, and bands always say, Warped Tour is tough, but they always have a van or I'm sorry, a bus or a
Hmm.
bandwagon to run back to with AC and like chill out for a little bit. And like every day on Warped Tour was once I stepped out of the van and it turned off, it didn't turn back on until we left. So there was no escaping anything. Whether the only escape I had was if I went to the production office and just kind of hung out there for a few hours. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely I thought I was conditioned for it, but it that was not the case.
it tested you.
Yeah, totally.
Cool, man. Just give me 1 second to compile my notes because I actually haven't even looked at them yet,
No
which
worries,
which
man.
is a
Take your
good
time.
thing.
Yeah.
So, how you've been doing this for a few years now? How many years have you been touring?
Ooh, my first tour was September 2012, so
Okay, that's a few
just
years.
over just over 3 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, happy anniversary.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been good.
What is there something that you didn't do back then that you do now? Like looking back on your first couple of tours, what have you improved and what are some of those noob mistakes that everyone makes?
When I first started out, and I still kind of get this way sometimes, but not as much. I was all about living the touring lifestyle. So, trying to party as much as I can, or anytime there was a party going on, like always being the one in there, always like hanging out with everyone, drinking, whatever was going on. And looking back now, I don't really regret that. But looking at how it's different now, I still party every now and then, but for the most part now, I just try to keep to myself and focus on my work. Because at the end of the day, it's cool to party and cool to hang out with people and cool to like make connections that way. But at the same time, you're out there to do a job. And most of the time I'm out doing photo and video. So I try to just keep to myself and, just focus on my work, make sure all my photos and videos are done before I go out and party. And I know for my first couple of tours, there'd be plenty of days where I would be behind, or I'm sorry, like weeks I would be behind on work, days and days behind, and I'd look and be like, oh, I have a huge load of work to do now. But now I've kind of been able to, once the show's over, I get all my work done, and then I party. So work
Right.
before play, and
Yeah.
that's been my biggest thing. Obviously, like my work ethic has gotten better, and editing styles and things like that have gotten better. I can pump out photos really quick now and easy. But yeah, definitely like partying and like living the touring rock star lifestyle. I kind of had to step back and be like, okay, I'm not in the band. Once the show's over, my job's not exactly over yet.
Yeah.
So I've had to. That's been probably my biggest thing.
Yeah, it is so easy to fall behind as well. Like I know that, yeah, it could be any number of things. It could be that you don't have power for your laptop or you don't have Wi-Fi or whatever, or maybe you got a headache that night, but it's just so easy to fall behind. And then the next couple of days you just end up hating yourself for it because in the back of your head you've got this mountain of photos that are piled up.
Yeah, definitely, and it's also like be professional too, and a lot, and I wasn't as professional back then. And once management starts hitting you up and they say, hey, we haven't gotten any photos the past couple days, or we haven't gotten any videos, or even the artist is like, hey, I'd like to see some photos from last night, and if you don't have them on you, then it just makes you look bad. And luckily, I was with people that never really looked at it that way. But I definitely had managements that would hit me up and say, hey, you've been on tour for a week and given us a few photos, and the whole time I've just been, partying and things like that. So it's definitely like, you make your mistakes and you learn from your mistakes and everything, and that's definitely something that happened, right off the bat. And even if I'm out with someone that I don't necessarily have to do work for, like on this, like for example, like on this Wage War tour, like I'm only working with Wage War, but I used to just limit myself to that and be like, oh, I'm only working with this band, so I'm only going to work for this band and nothing else. But I've learned now to, once I get that work done with them, I need to venture out and shoot other bands, and whether it goes anywhere or not, it's worth doing because you never know who might see that and who that might impact, and you could get a tour offer the next day, and that's honestly that's kind of what happened with this tour. I was working with Wage War on the tour, but they were like, "Yo, your work's really good. Do you want to come out with us for a couple days on the August Burns Red tour?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." So it's just all about using everything you have to the best of your ability. And like if I'm shooting a show, I want to make sure I shoot every band and give every band work, even if they're not paying me for it.
Yeah, how does it work? So let's say one band, or I'm guessing the sort of level of bands that you work with, it's their management anyway. But if one band is paying you, what's the etiquette on shooting the other bands and delivering, files to those other bands? Is there anything bad in doing that? Is it going to upset the management of the band that's paying you to be there?
I've actually never had that happen to me before. I've never given another band photos and had the people I'm working for say, hey, don't do that, or that's not cool. Now I have had friends that do the same thing I do. That I've heard horror stories before of bands that say, you can only shoot us and no other bands, and if you want to shoot other bands, then you can leave our camp. I've heard horror stories like that before, and that I've never had that happen to me before. But like I said, I've had friends that that's happened to, but usually everyone's really cool as long as I'm delivering work to the people that are actually paying me to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's usually not a big deal. But if I find myself delivering work to another band, or even delivering more work to another band other than the band that's paying me to be there, I'll kind of back off and focus more on the band I'm with. But like I said, I've never had to deal with that before, but I have had friends that have dealt with that before, and it honestly seems kind of unnecessary to me. I mean, if you're delivering work to the band that is paying you and you're giving them everything they want, there should be no other reason. There should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to do work.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, I can kind of see, I can kind of see their view of it too. We're paying you to do work. They're not paying you to do work. But yeah, like I said, I've never had that. I've never had a problem with that before.
Yeah, look, I've never really heard of that being an issue, but I can just imagine that a particular band or manager might be upset by that, particularly if you're there to do one job, and if getting those other photos takes away from your initial and your primary job. I can imagine that some people might take offense to that.
Yeah, that was with someone I knew on Warped Tour. Yeah, he was working with a specific band that, he had come to me and said, I'm not allowed to shoot any other bands. I can only shoot the band I'm with. And I was like, why is that? And he's like, well, the band requested it. They said if you want to come with us, you are to shoot us only at all times, and that's it. It's like, okay, that
Okay.
kind of sucks. That kind of sucks. But you know what? If you're still making your money off of it, then you do whatever your employer says. So
Yep. And I guess at least they were clear about that from the start. At least there wasn't an awkward conversation that happened later.
yeah,
Someone feels like they're being told off or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. So while you're on tour, is there anything else that you do? Maybe you don't have to, but is there anything else that you do to provide secondary income streams? Do you do print or do you do band promos or merch or anything while you're on the road to make some extra cash?
I used to when I was with Blood on the Dance Floor. I used to sell prints because their fan base is very, if they include someone new in their crew, everyone knows about it. I mean, I would take pictures, I'd sign autographs. Like it was so very weird for me. I'd
Yeah,
just be there doing my job. People like, "You're Bryce. Can I have your autograph?" And I'm like, Sure, I guess. Like, okay. So I kind of use that to my advantage, and I would sell prints of the band, and I made a little bit of money off of that. Not so much anymore. I'm waiting. It's actually funny. I had this conversation with someone earlier. I'm kind of waiting to get myself a little more established before I try to sell prints because I don't want to put stuff up and not sell.
yeah,
But I have brought up the idea before of like bringing prints on the road with me and selling them at the merch table. But yeah, I offer all the bands that are there if they approach me and they say do you like do you shoot other bands sets and anything like that, and I say yeah, if you want promotional shots done or anything like that, we can discuss it. But as far as other services, yeah, I'll shoot other bands, and sometimes they'll throw me money to shoot them some promotional shots or shoot their live set or maybe shoot a video or two. So yeah, I'll try my best to make a little extra cash on the road, and also I'll kind of say, like on my Instagram or Twitter on Facebook, every time I get a tour, I always post my dates and say, if anyone wants to excuse me, if anyone wants to do a shoot or anything, while I'm in your city, let me know. And I've had that happen before. I've had people come pick me up and I'll go and shoot their senior portraits, or they want to do a photo shoot with me.
it's
So
really
I'll just
cool.
do a photo shoot. So that's been pretty cool. But, for the most part, not really. I would love to start incorporating that more into when I tour, when I get with a band that's on the level that they have a pretty big fan base, so that I can actually start bringing out prints or posters and
Hmm.
sell them or have the band sign them and sell them. That's going to be great. But as for right now, it's just like I said, some senior portraits here and there with people that aren't necessarily associated with the tour. but
Hmm.
um but yeah, I just kind of do whatever I can. I've had bands hire me on to do lights before, because I've done, as I've been touring for 3 years now, but I haven't always gone out for just photo. I've done merch gigs, I've
Right.
done tour managing gigs, I've done lighting gigs,
Hmm.
I've done stage managing. So, and bands will see that because even if I'm shooting and I see like something going on stage that shouldn't be there, I'll run up and fix it, or, something like that. So I've had bands hire me on to do lights for them, and like stage manage them. So that's cool. But yeah, that's been pretty much it.
Yeah, that's cool. I've had this conversation before with a friend who kind of told me that whatever you can do to make yourself more valuable on the road is going to help get you those jobs. If you can, um, if you can cut hair, if you can do lights, if you're a tattoo artist, if you, whatever it is, if you've got these extra skills, that's going to help a band or their management justify taking you on the road and get you those jobs over that other guy.
Oh yeah, totally. Because not everyone can afford to bring out a photographer or videographer, and I learned that right off the bat. I mean, I've done a bunch of tours, for free starting out,
Hmm.
and I just learned really quick. Bands would be like, "Yo, man, we love your photos and we'd love to take you out, but honestly, like, there's no budget for you to come out. But if you want to do merch for us, we can pay you to do merch, and then you can just take photos on the side." And so that's what I did, quite a bit. Now I'm getting more into the point where I'm getting hired on to do mainly photo and video, but for a while I was doing, tour managing and then doing photos, or I was doing merch and then doing photos, which I love doing merch. I think merch is really easy. So, and I guess I'm good at it. So,
Hmm.
so I mean, I would do that, and it was a lot of fun. But it would just it that those are the tours where I would get really behind on work because there's no really taking a break from doing merch unless it's for the band's set. And then by the time you settle out, pack up the merch, get it in there, give the band their money, send all your sound scans, send the merch sheets to management. By that time, it's 1 o'clock, and I'm just tired. I just want to hang out. I don't want to sit and edit photos all day or all
Yeah,
night. So
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
as
but
much as much as merch is probably not, the hardest job in terms of like labor and, for the most part you'd just be standing there talking to fans, selling t-shirts. It is kind of like one of the longest jobs, like at least with the band or like the photographers, they can play the set or shoot the set and then relax. Whereas the merch guy's got to be there all night, basically. And I think the same about the sound guy. One of the sound guys on our tour, he was doing 4 of the 5 bands. He's like the 20-year-old Australian kid who came with us. So he had to basically be on all night. And the rest of us after the set, we could just kind of hang out. But I do feel kind of sorry for those people because they can't just party and relax once the
yeah,
set's over. So it's not an
yeah,
easy
it's
thing.
Yeah, it's definitely like an all night thing, like for sure.
Mm.
Um, but I enjoy it, and it's cool to be able. It's a lot better than going out there and making no money just doing photos. So it's a good way to make money, and it's a way to make yourself look valuable. I mean, I get hit up quite frequently for merch gigs and tour managing gigs, and I've started now where I'm able to turn a lot of them down just because now my main focus is photo and video, but it goes a long way, and especially if you're good at it, if you do a good job, it makes you more valuable. And I have bands like, yo, your photos are good and you're great at merch, so you should totally come out with us and do merch and shoot
Yeah, hell
photos.
yeah.
So that's what's kept me going. Because I mean, I just see so many photographers, like especially from my area, that want to do want to be on the road all the time, but they don't want to do merch. They want to go out and just do photos, which is great, and that's a good thing to strive for. But at the same time, I've had a sacrifice going out on a tour and not being able to shoot as much, just so I can get on the road and make those connections and
Sure,
have
sure.
people say, "Hey, now we have a budget, so do you want to come out and just do photos for us, and we'll hire on another merch guy?" And that I've been fortunate enough to get to that point now where that's the reality I'm in. So it's been really great.
Yeah, fantastic. So how many months of the year do you tour? And I mean, is there much more room left to add more to that?
This tour, or I'm sorry, this year I was on tour roughly like 9 or 10 months, and then last year I was on tour for a solid 10 months. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually taking some time off after this. I actually like it's funny because I got done with the Fresh Faces tour and I was planning on just going home, and then Wage War asked me to come out for a few days. I said, okay, I'll do a few days with you guys, and then actually
Hmm.
right after my stint with Wage War, Ice Nine Kills has a few CD release shows they're doing, so I'm gonna go to New York and do those shows with them, and then be able to go home. But I got hit up to do the whole month of December, and I was like, no, with another band, and I was just like, no, I'm good. I've been on the road long enough. I don't. I kind of want to go home and have some time off. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for me to do more. But at the same time, like when I go out, I know for over the summer I was gone for a solid 3.5 months at a time because I just went from one tour to another tour to another tour, and I don't get that burnout most of the time. Like at the point, like now, I'm kind of ready to go home. I've been out since the beginning of September, so
Crazy,
I'm
man.
kind of ready. Yeah, so I'm kind of ready to go home now and just spend some time with my family for the holidays. But a lot of the reason I tour so much is just because, like I said, I live in the boonies and I still live at home. So it's when I go home, I'm pretty happy for about a week, and then I'm like, okay, there's nothing to do. All of my friends are in college or have moved away, and the other people that have stayed there, I just quite frankly don't even want to hang out with. Because I don't know, it's weird, and I don't want to sound cocky when I say this at all, but you know, going on the road at such an early age, I kind of grew up a lot. Um, I started touring when I was 18, and so I got out of my immature stage really quick because you can't be that way on the road.
Hmm.
So I feel like when I come home, I can't really connect with a lot of my friends I used to, because they're kind of still in their woo party college stage and everything. And I'm like, I feel like I already did that. I feel like
Right.
being on tour, I already went through that stage and I kind of grew up. And so I'm wanting to, be creative and do things, and just a lot of people aren't. And so when I go home, I'm honestly just a homebody. I won't leave my house for weeks at a time, except to like go to the gym. I like being at home. I like being in my room. I just like hanging out, and it gets really boring. So that's why I try to stay out as much as I can. Luckily, I'm moving soon enough. In February, I'll be moving, so that'll be a lot better.
Cool.
I'll actually be at a place where I am with other people that are creative and can actually, get things done. But yeah, I just try to stay on the road as much as I can, because when I go home, there's not really much for me. I get some relaxing time with my dog, but besides that, there's not really much more there.
Yeah. Where will you be moving to?
San Diego, California.
Oh, cool. With some other creative friends.
Yeah, I got in with there's a production company. So we'll go back to 2013. I moved to San Diego for 6 months to film Blood on the Dance Floor documentary. And while I was out there, I made a bunch of friends. And fast forward to now, one of my friends I met out there is started a production company, and they do a lot of commercial work. They do music videos. They do work with like I believe he said NBC. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but
Mhm.
a lot of commercial work out there. And I have made a lot of connections with, different, managements and labels and things like that. So I'm gonna move to San Diego and start working with them, and hopefully we can get, some music videos going, and, they do short films, and just be somewhere where I'm off tour. I can be creative with people that are also creative, and that's what I need. When I go home back in Florida, I just feel so uncreative. I just sit at home. I won't pick up my camera for weeks at a time, and I
Right.
hate
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I can even see that I hate it, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'll try to go out and shoot, but there's nobody to shoot with. There's no one that does the same thing I do in my town, so there's just nothing. I'm so uncreative when I'm home. So luckily when I move, I'm hoping that when I get off tour, I'll be able to continuously work. And I have friends out in LA, and San Diego's not that far from LA, so even if I'm bored, I can drive to LA and hang out with other friends that do the exact same thing I'm doing. So hopefully that'll be good for next year.
That's really cool, man. I'm really curious about the living arrangement just because these guys like yourself who tour for 3 quarters of the year, it just doesn't make sense to have somewhere where you're paying rent and you've got these costs that are continuously coming through every fortnight or month when you're trying to make your living on the road. What's the living arrangement with that sort of place, or do they cater to people with a lifestyle like yours?
Well, for right now, I'm still living at home,
Hmm.
so the bills are very minimal, which I've been really lucky to have
Yeah,
parents that are supportive
absolutely.
enough to be able to, let me do that. And as far as this place goes, I did look into getting a place, because I know there's a company called Airbnb, I believe,
Hmm.
that they do that when people travel, to major cities. They'll rent out, apartments, and you can get an apartment if you're going to be gone for a certain amount of time. You can rent it out, and I was looking into that, but honestly, those apartments cost a lot, and if I don't have guaranteed people to stay there, then I'm gonna be stuck with the bill at the end of the month. And I I make okay money on the road, but not enough to pay a $2,000 a month, just place I'm not even staying
Of
at.
course, of course.
But luckily I'm moving in. As far I haven't set in stone yet 100% where I'm living in San Diego, but the plan is right now to move in with 3 or 4 friends that are going to get a house, and rent will be fairly cheaper. But I'm to the point now where I'm making, enough money on the road where I can afford to, pay for that kind of place, even if I'm not there. Even if I'm gone for 2 months, I can still afford to, you know, pay for it while I'm gone, and then when I get home, still make, you know, money while I'm there, and still do, what I need to do. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping it's going to be a really big move for me, because it's the first time I'll live. I mean, I say first time I'm living like on my own, but I feel like touring and things like that, and like moving to places for a couple months at a time is you kind of already are living on your own. But it'll be a big move for me, just because like I will have to worry, if I go on tour for 4 months at a time, am I going to have enough money to pay for 4 months worth of rent? Um, so I'm hoping everything's going to go good. but it'll be good now too because if I'm working with the production company there, I'll be able to kind of pick and choose my tours. I won't have to tour just for the sake of touring.
Right.
I'll be able to say, okay, this tour is going to benefit me really well, and it's going to, put a good chunk of change in my pocket. So I'll take that, and I'll turn down a tour that won't make me very much money that I would normally do just to do a tour,
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, hopefully everything's going to work out, but as of right now, it's nothing's 110% set in stone, but moving closer to February, it's things are starting to, roll more now. So hopefully everything gets, sorted out.
Okay, that's really interesting. I guess that's the logical next step. Um, you build your personal brand and you'll work to a point where you can pick and choose the tours that are going to benefit your life. You just don't have to do all the small tours, or you don't have to always take the merch jobs. You can just do the tours that are going to level you up right then and there. That sounds like the ideal situation to me.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the point I've wanted to be at for a while now. Because, I love touring. I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, I hate touring. I just do it just to make money. It's like I've ever wanted to do was tour ever since I started listening to, gotten into like the punk music and, knew what touring was. That's all I wanted to do. And I still love doing it. I love being in a new place every day. Like I love that I'm sitting in a random basement, in Massachusetts right now that I've never been to this area before, but I
Hmm.
love it. It's so like, it's honestly feels like home for me. But it's going to be nice that when I get off tour, I don't have to be like, okay, well, I'm off tour for 2 months. Now I get to sit at home and do nothing. It's like, I'm off tour for 2 months. So let's try to get, as many music videos as we can. Let's try to get clients in and work with them and do this. So I don't want to sit still anymore. I want to keep on, doing stuff constantly with, I mean, obviously the intended breaks to, unwind and things like that, but I don't want to sit at home for a month and not do anything. If I'm sitting at home in San Diego for a month, I'm going to be working every single day.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, I admire that, man. It's very cool.
thank you, man.
How do you how do you stay comfortable on tour? Because you mentioned before you're very at home on the road, and you obviously can do it for 9, 10 months of the year and not burn out. So I'm just curious because I did 6 weeks and I was ready to sleep for a year after that. First of all, the first thing that kills me is you can't shower every day. Like, I'm usually a 2 showers a day kind of guy at home, but I reckon the first 7 or 8 days we didn't shower. How do you stay comfortable, and like what do you do to keep your body in shape mentally and physically?
Honestly, like with the whole shower thing, you just kind of get used to it. At first, I was like, I don't get to shower every day. Like, what's this? Like, I'm not cool with this. But after a while, you just get used to it. I mean, baby wipes, and baby powder.
Yeah, but they only do
Save.
so much.
I know. Well, it's actually good because I just cut all my hair off. I used to have, I mean, I didn't have super long hair, but it was probably like down to here. And
Shoulder
my
length, yeah.
hair, and that was like I hated that every day waking up and having my hair in knots and doing this. So I just cut it all off. But baby powder and baby wipes help a lot. But I mean, honestly, like you just kind of get used to it. I mean, there were a few points on this tour where I was like, okay, I haven't showered in like 11 days. Like, can we please go get a hotel so everyone can
What?
shower? But it's gotten good now to the point where like I've been on tours with bands like Famous Last Words where literally I would sit at the merch table and be like, can anyone give us a place to stay tonight? And most of the time it worked. And most of the time we would stay at people's houses. And I've kept in contact with a lot of those people. So, when I post my tour dates, they're hitting me up and saying, yo, when you roll through here, like you got a place to shower and stay. So depending on the band I'm with and if they're willing to, a lot of times we can go to people's houses and do that. And, I've been on tours before where we've been on a bus with a shower. So it's like I don't have to go days without showering. Or, I've been on tours where, every night's a different hotel, but for like this tour, we didn't do hotels and we didn't do, you know, we didn't stay at people's houses. The
Yeah.
band I was with, my enemies, they didn't really like staying at people's houses, which I kind of get. They just were very, to themselves. They didn't want to, stay with other people and just random people and, all that. So, but truck stops have showers, so that's good. But as far as that, I mean, I try to work out on the road too and try to stay healthy, but a lot of times it doesn't work. And a lot of times I go home and I'm like, oh, I've gained 15 pounds because I'm eating gas station hot dogs, or I've spent way too much money because I'm trying to eat healthy on the road, and I'm like, oh great, I'm down $200 because I wanted to eat good and I didn't eat cheap Taco Bell every night. So I still haven't found the balance. This tour I told myself I was going to eat good, and I spent way too much money trying to eat good. So it's still trying to find that balance, but as far as like, you know, being clean, you're like not. I've just learned that you're just not going to be clean. Like, luckily I'm at a house now and I showered and I'm clean now, but I know in 4 days I'm not going to be clean.
Okay.
So
So you just
it's
learned to
just,
live with it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, even when I go home, I have to like remind myself to take showers, which is like such a gross thing, but I'll just be home and I'm like, oh, I haven't showered in 2 days. I'm gonna go shower. Like, cause you just get used to it. You just get
Right.
used to it's not like an everyday thing. Like before I toured, it was like, yeah, 2 or 3 showers a day, like all the time. And now it's like when I go home, like, oh, I'm allowed to shower like more than once, or I can shower whenever I want. So
It's
it's
changed
just
you,
it.
man. The road has changed you.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. You just get comfortable being dirty, which is really disgusting, but it's just a part of
That's
tour
the truth, is it? Okay.
until you get to the point where you can be on buses with showers. It's just like you're gonna be dirty.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I mean,
gross.
and that's the other thing. Food, unhealthy food is so cheap in the US. I mean, you can go to Whole Foods and pay $16 and get one of those like great healthy buffet meals, but you can have like a $1 nachos from Taco Bell, or you can get Wendy's or whatever delicious unhealthy food. Even like Walmart, like we loved Walmart, but everything there is kind of gross.
This disgusting, yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help too, as like being the photographer, like as far as it goes ranking wise, I'm bottom of the totem pole.
Hmm.
Unless there's a girlfriend with us, or even that would rank higher than me. But even if there's unless there's someone just tagging along for no reason that helps benefit the band at all, I'm lowest in the totem pole. So if the band decides to go to Taco Bell and I don't want to eat Taco Bell, I'm either going hungry or I'm eating Taco Bell.
Hmm.
So I don't really get a say on where, we go. And so it's yeah, you just kind of got to put up with it. And like I said, when I go home, I work out. I try to work out a bunch because I will go home and be like, I gained 10 or 15 pounds because all I ate was Taco Bell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's kind of gross, but that's what you got to do. Hey, um, who is there anyone that you look up to or admire that's maybe on the next level that you're looking to be with your music photography?
um I mean, a big music photographer right now in our and this scene is Adam Elmakias, and
Hmm.
he puts out great work, and he's someone I've been fortunate enough to work a couple of different events with, not necessarily right directly with him, but we've been shooting the same events and been able to have some conversations with him, and I've been following his work since I was in high school, so he's definitely someone that I look up to and admire. I admire his work a bunch. And one of my really good friends, Josiah, he's out of Florida as well, and he works with an artist called Sean Mendez, who was just on the Taylor Swift tour, and his work has gotten incredible. He's an incredible videographer and photographer, and I admire his work a bunch. But I also admire a bunch of there's someone I follow on Instagram, and I can't for the life of me remember his name, and I feel really bad about it. It's Ryan something, but he did a stint with the Used on Warped Tour, and he goes all over the world, and he shoots film cameras and some digital, and he puts out some incredible work. And I see his work and get really inspired from it. But I'm also inspired by a bunch because eventually I'd love to direct down the road. I'd love to direct some short films, or even a movie to get to that
Cool.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very far. It's very far from where I'm at now, but I look up to a bunch of directors in the scene, like especially Eli Roth. Like I love horror movies and those gruesome movies, and he does it right and he does it great. And I definitely look up to him for a bunch of stuff. But now having Instagram and how I can have everyone's work at the touch of my fingertips, there's a bunch of people I follow that I don't necessarily I've never met, I don't know on a personal level, but I see their work all the time, and it keeps me going and striving. And even on this past tour, we had a videographer hop on with one of the bands called the White Noise. His name's Sam Shapiro, and he puts out amazing work, and he definitely inspires me to do better work. And it was really cool to be able to work beside him and collaborate some ideas with him. And bounce off each other's ideas. So that was really cool. But yeah, those are a few people that definitely, inspire me to do stuff. But there's also just I watch so many movies now that I've started doing, videography, and so it's every movie I watch inspires me in some way or another. So it's definitely, and even like Jonathan Kemp, like his work's incredible, and
John is great.
I see his work and I'm like, wow, that's great, like that inspires me to, push more and do more work. And so I mean, I think honestly, like every photographer I've seen inspires me in some way or another. And I've always said I don't necessarily have role models I look up to as far as that sort of stuff goes, because I don't ever want to strive to be someone else. I don't want to see someone's work and be like, oh, I want to put out exactly what they're putting out.
Yeah, of
I used to
course.
be like that. I used to be like that, and I used to strive to put out, the same work Al Macias was putting out, or this and that. And I just have grown to realize that you can't put out the same work they are, because they're putting out work that's exclusive to them.
Yeah.
And if you're doing the same thing they're doing, and it's not going to work. So I've just like that's one thing I've definitely learned over the years is just to make your work stand out for you. Don't try to mimic anyone else's work. And it's definitely helped me out a bunch. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, man. And I like what you said about having, being inspired in some way by everyone and having that, on Instagram at your fingertips. I I wouldn't have I wouldn't have thought that until you just said, but you're so right. Every day I scroll through my Instagram feed and there's these people that I've followed for years now that I barely even know, but every day I see their photos and it just gets me that little bit more pumped to create. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, that's just about all I have for you today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your Thanksgiving evening on your night off. I hope you've
Yeah, no,
had
thank you. Yeah.
I hope you've had a nice, restful time because I know you're going to be jumping right back into it very shortly. Where can we send people to check out your stuff? Where's the best place to find out about Bryce and, contact you if someone wants to reach out?
Yeah. All my social medias are where's Bryce? Not where is Bryce,
Hmm.
but where's Bryce? People get that confused all the
Where's Bryce?
time.
One word. Yeah.
Yeah, where's Bryce? And my name is Bryce, not Bri, for anyone that might get confused on that. And I
Hmm.
don't even know how that came to be. That was just like my Twitter name. And it just kind of, unfolded into that. But like, yeah, my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook is all where's Bryce. And then my website is where'sbrycephotography.com. Yeah, you can go there and check out all my work. I need to update my site after this tour. I've just these past 2 days I've been super just relaxing and not doing anything. But my Instagram, I always upload photos on my Instagram. My Twitter is kind of more personal, but I still post stuff on there. And yeah, my website has all my portfolios and everything. So if you want to learn more about me, you can see my everyday life on my Twitter and Instagram, and all of my work from since 2012 is on my site, just where'sbrycephotography.com.
Yeah, excellent. I definitely recommend checking out Bryce's Instagram. He posts very regularly, and I definitely get that daily dose of inspiration from your photos, man.
Thank you, man. That means a lot.
I'll also link up all the spelling and stuff on the blog page on the show notes for this episode. So yeah, no one gets confused with your where's Bryce, Bryce with the Y. I really
Yes,
appreciate
that'd
you
be
joining
great.
me today, man. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time off, and I hope to speak to you very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been awesome.
Thanks, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. If you did and you liked it, I would love if you could head over to iTunes, give the show a rate and review on the store. It helps the track get up in the charts and get into the ears of people who would use and enjoy this content the most. As always, if you miss anything, it can be found at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. I'm also thinking about trying something new, which is making a Facebook group for this podcast. And basically, the people who are dedicated, the people who actually enjoy the show and want to hear about new shows that come out, you'll find out about them there. And hopefully, you'll have access to all the past guests as well. So I'll make a post in the group with each new episode, and I'm going to see if I can get the guest from that episode to maybe just answer some questions and interact with you guys on that post. So it's somewhere we can access all these very talented and notable, recognizable people. Thanks again for listening. I really appreciate you. Have a good week. Happy shooting, and I will see you next time. Bye.